So you might say, how does this fit into criminal justice? Well, let me tell you. So when an individual is incarcerated, they are stripped of all of their independence, their ability to make choices. Everything is chosen for them, right? They lose their autonomy. They lose their sense of self. And so how OT fills that gap is we help these individuals figure out how to make choices again, how to gain back the autonomy and that self-worth, and how to figure out how to live their life.
Hey everyone, good evening. Lisa here with Do Something Indy, and it has been kind of a comedy of errors getting this show on. I originally was going to be down at the art center, and then that didn't work out. And then I decided to stay home, and I was canning for the first time in our new kitchen, and I set off the carbon monoxide alarms, and they literally just went off like 5 minutes ago. I had to open all the windows and the doors and all the things. And then I was set up outside so that I could breathe fresh air, and a storm is coming in. So I had to come back in. Thankfully, the alarms have gone off in the house, and I am safely inside breathing air that I think is okay. So we'll see. But tonight's show is, I feel like every show is a special show. Every show is a great show, because I just love all of the people that come into our lives that have great stories for us to share. And this one is a young lady who we've known for a while. We bought the building for the Mars Hill Art Center in 2015, and I met her not long after that. And when we opened the doors and I was doing Fresh Flower Fridays for a little bit, she was one of my best Fresh Flower Friday customers. And they live literally 2 blocks from us. And so I've kind of gotten to know this young lady, and you see my shirt, Felonies Don't Define Futures. That is what we are talking about. And this young lady is helping to inspire people who are coming out of incarceration to turn their lives around. So I'm going to leave it at that. Producer Johnny, show the video. Hey everybody, Lisa here at the Art Center with my friend and neighbor, Breea Vest, who is our guest on this week's show. And I am so excited because you are not an organization living the Do Something mantra. You are a neighbor and a community member that is actually living it. So we've talked about, you do a lot of things, we do a lot of things. Just give us the rundown. What are all the things you do?
Yeah, so I am a licensed clinical occupational therapist. So I got my doctorate degree in occupational therapy in 2021, which is really exciting. And before that, I just really enjoyed being involved with like the community and really working with individuals of, low income groups, or just trying to help people rise above and do something greater. And so that's really translated over into my career. So I work as a pediatric occupational therapist, both inpatient at a local hospital, and then I also go into kids' homes and do first steps in their homes as well. But then outside of that, I actually work within the criminal justice system and community reentry to utilize occupational therapy to help individuals kind of rebuild their life and their skills and add tools to their toolkit to really try to help them be successful after coming out of the criminal justice system.
Yeah, and so we have to share your shirt.
Yeah. So Felonies Don't Define Futures. I partner with an organization, and that is a huge mantra that they have. I'm pretty sure it's in the process of being copyrighted because so many people love it. But I truly believe that, your past doesn't define your future, and we all make poor choices all of the time. We've all made mistakes, and so we shouldn't be judged based off of our past versus who we are right now in the present. That is where the judgment should come from.
Absolutely, and I'm going to say amen to that a million times over. And I'm a former HR executive, and we had so many conversations about the recruiting process and where do we make exceptions when people don't pass a background check. And unfortunately, we had a stoplight strategy built into our application process, and if they hit the yellow, we could make a decision. But if they hit the red, they were automatically out. And I have a couple of stories that I'll share with you later about a couple of people that I actually hired that we should not have hired that ended up being success stories.
Yeah.
So do you have any examples of that with people you've already worked with?
Oh my gosh, yes, all of the time. I have had so many individuals that let me say this, they've never had a job per se. They've never had a job where it's a 9 to 5, they get a W-2, they pay taxes on their money.
Yeah.
They have been creative with their income, which is maybe what has led them to criminal justice involvement.
Right.
But that being said, they have all of these skills and they're excellent at communication, and their backgrounds, kind of, companies were just like, no. They have this system where when they input their information, it's either you have no background so you're good, or you have a background so absolutely not.
Right.
And so that's been one of the biggest barriers. But I have one client in mind, and he had spent probably 10 years in a facility, and he came out, he came through, like I did a job readiness course with them. So we work on mock interviews, we build resumes. Sometimes people are like, I've never had a resume, or I've never had a job, so how am I supposed to have a resume?
Right.
But I get really creative, and I make sure that every single person that comes through my class gets a resume.
Right.
And he did all of that. He completed the class, and he has actually been at his job now since October. And it's July,
Yeah.
so
Going on a year.
yeah, I mean, he has been really successful, and of course, I cannot take any responsibility for that. That is all him.
Right.
And all of his determination and hard work that he's put forth.
Yeah.
But it's second chance employers and people that are just willing to give people that second chance, or sometimes even a third or fourth chance,
Right.
if you will,
Right.
can really give people an opportunity to just turn their life around.
Yeah. What made you go into this line of work?
Yeah, so like I said, I've always been interested in working with just at-risk populations.
Yeah.
It started with, I worked within like the Bonner Community Center on the Near East Side and Brookside Park when I was younger. And then when I was in undergrad, I watched the movie Just Mercy with Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not seen it, but I know the movie.
So there's a book and a movie.
Yeah.
And I remember leaving the movie theater feeling just infuriated.
Yeah.
So it's a movie about a guy who was basically wrongfully convicted, put on death row, and almost had his life taken from him. He had years of his life taken, but his life was almost completely taken. He became a lawyer. He ended up, representing himself and all of these things, and got freed.
Wow.
And so I just remember I left there thinking that there's so many injustices that are happening, and I started digging more and more into the criminal justice system. I read a book called American Prison by Shane Bauer, and he went undercover in a prison down in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And he gives a backstory on the history of incarceration in the United States. And then he also kind of goes into all of the things that were just happening behind the scenes that nobody was speaking on. And I was like, I can't know this information and not be a part of trying to make a difference and make a change. And so that's when I decided, and in grad school, we are given an opportunity for a capstone project, which is basically where we can pick anything we want to do and use OT to create some sort of project. And that's when I kind of got my foot in the door with the criminal justice system, and it ended up turning into a partnership and a job because I love it so much. And, I always say, even if I can make a difference in one person's life, then I've done my job. So.
And that is exactly the attitude we have had here with the Mars Hill Art Center. And we have that one person. We've actually had a few, but our one actually started before we even opened our doors. And I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you, but you guys can go back and watch previous episodes of Do Something Indy and look for the story of Charles Johnson. We actually did two different shows with him. We did an initial show, and then we did a follow-up show, I think a year or so later. And the story quickly is that when we were renovating this space, we were in the back clearing all of the junk out that was in here, had the garage doors open in the back, and there's this guy riding this like little trick bike up and down the alley, strung out, looked like he hadn't had a shower in 2 years, talking to himself. We knew that he had a problem, a pretty big problem. Well, what we didn't know was that he had served time. He had been in addiction recovery a couple of times. Wasn't successful with it. Really had just let his life go to heck, and it was just not a good situation. But John kept talking to him, he kept coming around. And John said, you know what, I'm going to try to mentor this guy. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then at least I've tried. Right? And what started out as just this conversation turned into Charles being eager to straighten his life out so that he could get back into the workforce. He could try to get his kids back. All these things. And so now I think it's been 4 years he's been clean. And so to see him now versus what he looked like then, two completely different people.
It's huge.
It is huge. And so we feel like Charles is our one. And it's just an amazing experience to be a part of that kind of change with someone.
Oh yeah, and I get so excited still. I've been doing this work for over a year now, and I still get phone calls. I'm like, hey, Miss Breea, I just wanted to check in, let you know what's going on with my life. And I have one guy, and he actually left the work release facility and went home and proposed to his girlfriend that had been with him for all of these years. He had served a really long time in prison, and she stayed by his side through it all.
Awesome.
And when I called to follow up, he's like, yeah, so I proposed, and she said yes, and we're wedding planning. I was like, yes! I was like, I want an invite to the wedding, but I was like, no, just kidding, but for real, I'm so excited for you. And so, I am definitely just like, it's such a good feeling when you can see someone take control of their life and really, I just see that transformation. And I'm big too on just being someone's like hype man is what I call it, really.
Their cheerleader. You're their cheerleader.
Yeah, and so I can, sometimes guys come in and they're just really low morale, low confidence. They don't have, when you're incarcerated, you basically lose all of your independence. You lose your ability to make choices, your ability to, for everything, right? So your meals are prepared for you. You're told what time you can get up, when you can go where. You're given the same clothes to wear. So you really have no choices anymore. And so by the time people are getting out, how do you even make choices? It's the simplest things. How do I decide what I'm going to eat today? How do I decide what I'm going to wear? How do I go to the grocery store and handle all these self-checkouts? Because if you've been away for a while, those weren't a thing. Exactly. And so, I just try really hard to be their hype man and let them know, I see potential in you. I want you to see what I see in you. And a really important question that I ask a lot of my guys that I work with is, can you see yourself a year from now?
Oh, wow.
And if you can, tell me about it. And I'll have a lot of youth, like the younger guys, 19, 20, and they're kind of living in this state of fight or flight where they don't feel safe. Maybe they have never really thought about the future because they're only thinking about the right here, right now. And they've lost a lot of people in their life, whether it's due to incarceration or due to violence. And it's those kids, when they tell me no, it takes a piece of my heart with them, and so I'm like, can you see yourself 6 months from now? And then they start to be like, maybe a little, and I'm like, what about a month from now? Can you see a month from now? And I kind of start there, and then we work our way forward. And sometimes those kids who initially were like, I can't see myself a year from now, now they're like, Miss Breea, this is what I've got planned. This is what I'm hoping to do in a year. I'm like, yes, you can now see in the future. So, I don't even know why we got to where we're talking about, but basically being a hype man is just so important for these people because support is important.
Well, I think I had asked you why you chose this direction and this line of work. And all the stories that led us to right here have I'm just amazed. I think back to my HR career and those people that really had a hard time that I probably shouldn't have hired, but did take a chance on. And I'm just so grateful that there was a little voice in me that said, give them a chance, just give them a chance, because it doesn't always work out that way. So I'm really grateful to be able to look back now on that, and also to be able to help inspire maybe some change in the way that we do things. Which leads me to, my husband is trying to work on some of the things that you're working on, but from a higher perspective, right? From a Marion County perspective, but then also from a community perspective. So we're trying to address the things that are going on in Mars Hill, which is how I met this young lady, because she's a neighbor. So let's talk about that for just a second. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Decatur Central, so right on the southwest side of Indy, probably 10 minutes away or so.
Not far.
And then we were renting an apartment when I was applying for grad school, and rent was expensive, and we were just kind of like, let's get a house. And in this area, it was reasonable because I wasn't going to be working. So that's kind of how we ended up here. But
and I'm so glad. In fact, you were one of my first Fresh Flower Fridays.
Yes, I was obsessed because Lisa always had fresh flowers out in the box out here, and I would come and get them because I love fresh flowers. Like I love to go to farmers markets or even just cut my own. So that was a really nice thing to have.
So we've had a good number of young families that have moved into this community since we've been here, and we bought this building in 2015. And I think people need to be more inspired to go into communities that maybe they don't know about, maybe that need a little rejuvenation. We are not fans of gentrification. We don't want to push our elderly neighbors out. We don't want to push anyone out. But we also want people to just kind of be inspired to love where they live. Right? So we're grateful for people like you, giving Mars Hill a chance and being part of the art center and all that. So what would you say to a young person that may watch this and is trying to decide what they want to do with their lives? What's your best advice?
I would say you can be anything it is that you want to be. Whatever you want your life to be, whether it's a year from now or 5 years from now, keep your eye on that goal and set that. And then set those small goals to reach that goal, because literally this life is whatever you make it, and life is all about choices, and it's our choices each and every day that kind of lead us on our path and on our journey. And two, if you're someone who's younger and maybe you have made some of the wrong choices, that's just a piece of your story. It's a
that was
piece
going to be my next question. What would you say to the person who's made the wrong choices that's afraid to try to live their dream?
It's just a piece of your story. It's a piece of your book, and in all reality, it's made you kind of into the person that you are today. You end up with lived experience, and you kind of have to decide, am I going to let this experience take over my life, or am I going to take over this experience and get my power back? And so, I mean, life is, it's really just a journey, and it's all about choices, and choices that we make every single day. So, you know, I don't even know how I ended up here. Looking back, I'm like, how am I here? And then now, how did I get here? I remember years ago thinking, all I want to do is work in community reentry. All I want to do is work with people who have backgrounds. And now I'm doing it, and I'm just like, wow, how did this happen? So again, just have that far goal, that big goal. If you're living your life and you're just in comfortability, my motto is you're not growing. You need to be uncomfortable to grow. And so if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough. You got to dream bigger.
Think about sandpaper. What does sandpaper do when it's applied to wood? It polishes it. So that friction can help create that
smooth
beautiful
surface.
finish. So you said a few things that are quotes or statements that we always try to live by here too. And I also say that your tragedy or your trauma can turn into your testimony, which then can in turn help other people. So I always encourage people to tell that story. So once you get to that point where you've moved through the uncomfortable and now you're being able to live out your dream or live out your goals, tell other people about it, because that is going to inspire other people to do
absolutely. And even if too, I have guys all the time, they're like, oh, well, I just did this. And they kind of like downplay their accomplishments. And I'm like, no, I need you to be like, I did that. This is what I did. Don't discredit even the small wins, because every win matters, and it's important to count those wins along the way. So
when I say the phrase, do something indie, what does that mean to Breea?
To me, that means that you have the power, no matter who you are, to do something, to make a difference in the community. Whether it's on a small scale or a big scale, whether it's donating to the food pantry because you have a little bit of extra groceries that week, or it's talking to a neighbor. You know, just the other day I had someone walking down the street, and I also thrift on the side, so that's a whole other thing. That's a problem. But I thrift and I resell vintage clothing on the side. And I was carrying stuff out. It was kind of just like dead stock that I was going to take to Plato's Closet. And this girl's like, do you happen to have anything my size? And I'm like, yeah, like go through here, take what you need. Like I'm getting rid of it. I don't need it. And kind of, so really just doing something, anything. I just made a post today on social media about being someone's hype man. I was like, today, if you're not, encouraging someone to be their best self, that's what I want you to do today, because just spreading positive energy and good vibes, it really matters.
It does matter. My dad's favorite quote is make at least one person's day every day.
Oh, yeah.
And he still lives that out and inspires that in us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for what you're doing and for being willing to do this with me.
You're welcome.
And keep doing it. And I'm so grateful that you're our neighbor and you're part of this community. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you guys. See you next time.
Bye.
So listening back to that, I remember the conversation, but when you hear it in an interview setting and I'm sitting here consuming it like any of you are online, just hearing the depth of the work that she is doing is just amazing to me. So this young lady has her doctorate. I asked her afterwards, I said, so you're Dr. Vest? And she said, I am, but I don't really like to be called that, but she's done it. Like, she has put in the work. She is living out her dream. A couple of things that I took from this, her quotes were, every win matters, which is so true. And then if your dreams don't scare you, maybe they aren't big enough. So producer Johnny, why don't you join me? Let's talk a little bit more about what she had to share with us. What do you think? I don't hear you.
I muted myself because I didn't want to be talking. And this is my brand new camera. I hooked it up while the interview is going on. So this is a first. See, it looks better. I look like
it does. It looks good.
Now. Yeah, it's not bad. So I like that. But yeah, it's just amazing. She lives about 4 blocks from us.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe 4.
Yeah, about maybe
4.
6. I don't know. It's just 2 roads over and 2 roads down. So
yeah,
it's amazing. And this doing reentry, I have, I think three guys working for me right now that are recovering addicts and been in jail and had trouble life. And they're all different stages in the 20s, 30s, and 50s. And there is a lot of failures. So when you say celebrate everything that's good, that makes a lot of sense, because some of these little steps lead to bigger steps. So it's just very interesting. And, we'll probably be doing something with her in the future with our recovery and reentry house. And, it's when you're younger, you don't have those finances to do those type of things. Sometimes you have to listen to older people that can maybe help those dreams come true. But just for her at her age to be, let's say, have figured out a lot of this stuff. It's weird. I mean,
it's inspiring to me. It is so inspiring to me. I mean, we didn't figure this out until we were in our 50s, and we're
still don't figure it out. So
I know, but she's living out that missional life. Like she is living on mission and purpose, and it is just so inspiring. So I do want to share a couple of the stories that I mentioned. I told her after we were off air. But the couple of times that I hired people that had backgrounds that I probably shouldn't have hired. So the first one, it was an event management position for me. And she was running a gift shop where she had access to a cash register. And there were only a couple of people in this little shop each day. And we came up short one night. And it was an even $50. And because of the fact that she had a background and I hired her outside of the parameters I'd been given, the assumption was automatically made that she stole the money. And I told my boss, I was like, I know she didn't do it. I just know she didn't do it. This young lady had an ankle bracelet when she came to interview with me. She said, I've had multiple DUIs. It's turned into a felony charge. I'm on home detention. They've told me that I can work. I need this job. Like, I desperately need this job. I'll do everything I'm supposed to do. I'll work hard for you. She gave me all the right answers. And so this shortage happened, and I'm told, oh no, she did it. We're going to let her go when she comes into work the next morning. And I said, you guys, have we like double, triple, quadruple checked the register tapes, the credit card machine, everything to make for sure that she did not take this money? Oh, we've already triple checked. We don't need to check anymore. We know she took it. She's got the background. She fits the MO, right? And so, against my wishes, they bring her in. They make me sit in the room. They had our head of security in the room and basically harassed her and said, you know, we know you did it. You may as well admit it. We're going to let you go anyway. You know, and she just was sitting there crying. And deep in my gut and in my heart, I knew she didn't do it. And so I had to escort her out. And the next day we had auditors every day that would check all of the registers, and they go through all the money and all that. The next day, the auditors found the mistake. And so she was terminated for no reason. Now, the event was about to take place. There was no way I could hire her back, and she would have only worked one day. So it was kind of a moot point. But I felt like the lowest of low. Like, I knew she hadn't done it. I just was beside myself. So I called her and I said, hey, I just want you to know they found the mistake, and I'm going to fix your exit so that it doesn't show up as a termination. And if you need a letter of recommendation, let me know. I'd be happy to write you one. It broke my heart. So there's that story. And then the second, and you know, I gave her a chance, and she was going to do a great job, but we didn't do her well. We didn't serve her well. So then the next story is a young man who also had on an ankle bracelet, and we hired him anyway. And he ended up working for the organization for a number of years, made it up to the supervisory ranks, turned his life around. I mean, it just was the greatest success story. And no other organization was going to give this guy a chance. So that's exactly what Breea is trying to train these people for, like to be able to present themselves well, to be able to really turn their lives around. And then she's also trying to work on initiatives that inspire employers to be willing to hire these people. So, John, I think you and I have talked about this. So my old employer, we had the stoplight strategy, which I explained in the video, but there was a point where my hands were tied and I literally could not do anything to hire these people if they fit a certain criteria. So what do you say about that?
Well, I don't want to throw rain on your parade, and we don't want to give the viewers this pie in the sky. Every person you hire or try to help is going to help you.
It doesn't always work out that way. I've had just as many that didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you the story about, you know, the homeless guy that I tried to help. He gained my trust, and I let him come in my shop, and he stole thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
Right.
But, you know, a year goes by and he comes up to me and he says, you know, I was working with a guy, and the guy was complaining about somebody that owed him like $3,000. And I chimed in and I said, well, that person should pay him back $50 a time until they get it done. And he said, I was convicted at that moment because of what I did to you. And, you know, he denied, but it wasn't, you know, not all the stories end that way. I mean, you know, they just don't. But if you feel like you can deal with some of this stuff, then you can. But like I said, I have 3 guys working for me right now that are in what's called an Oxford house, and that's an Oxford program. It's a house where you have a group of guys. It can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, whatever. And it's run like when I heard this model, it's run like a fraternity house. You know, we have a house manager, president, vice president. Everybody has a title and a duty and a responsibility. They need to pay rent every week. You need to keep a job, and they hold each other accountable. And, you know, a lot of times they'll have a person that lives in that house, maybe not. They're pretty much their own house. And that seems to be very well. But getting somebody in that house is the hardest part. Usually they have to go because they've been incarcerated and this is the next step. And you mentioned ankle bracelets. Ankle bracelets should be illegal. They should not happen. I know somebody that's going to have to wear an ankle bracelet for 10 years. That is cruel. And it's not one of those little, it is a boat anchor one.
Yeah.
And it was all over some garbage that really probably shouldn't have been in there, but they make money off these ankle bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
They make $6 to $8 off of each bracelet every day that these folks got to pay. So I'm hoping that Breea is somebody in the future that will finally, be able to speak to some of this reform that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because prison's not for everybody. Prison's not a rehab. Well, it is if you get thrown in there and they don't have drugs coming into you. That's a rehab.
Yeah.
But it is not a rehab, and it's not really a rehabilitation. It's more of a punishment, and it really puts an overbearing burden on folks that are trying to turn their lives around. And I would give anybody that got Breea as case manager, they're in great hands.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's true with everything. And there's harvest is plenty and the laborers are few.
Well, and I was going to kind of contradict what you just said. There are plenty of people in prison that deserve to be there, and they deserve to be there indefinitely. And that, we all know that. But I think we're talking about that population of people that really need someone to be their hype man, like she said, and be their cheerleader and be there for them and not just cast them off as trash. And because that's what a lot of people do.
Well, and we need to get to these people earlier when they first steal that candy bar or whatever. Nowadays, a lot of shootings in Indianapolis here are under 17. They're 13 and 14-year-olds. And they didn't just get up one day and say, I'm going to shoot. There's other things there. And just kicking that can down the road just leads to more problems. And it's a tricky situation, but there's consequences. Like you said, in your story about the gal that $50 came up missing, that's a consequence of being somebody that's been in trouble. I'm sorry, but that's how people view this. And, you talk about, doing one of these recovery houses or a re-entry place or whatever. And, a lot of people, I don't want that in my backyard. And I said it. I said it too. I know. I wasn't gonna throw you under the bus. You sort of.
I'll throw myself under the bus.
You corrected yourself when I said, "Hey, let's get the house next door for a recovery, a re-entry house." And
I don't want it that close. But how can we expect other people to be willing to?
Yeah, I did not answer that tweet when you said that text when you said that to me. You said, "I don't know if I felt," and then I didn't even answer. I said, well, "I'll just talk to you when I get home." About 20 minutes later, Lisa sends me another one. Well, I don't know how we can expect others to do this if we're not willing. And I should say you aren't willing to do this because I was the one that brought it up. But that is an issue. If you are not capable of handling this, and I have hired felons, addicts. I have a degree in psychology because of handling these things. I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. So I went to school. I got training to be able to do this. It's not for everybody. You have to be able to be, I'm 6'3", and, people don't mess with me too much. I really can talk to our youth very well that are troubled because I was a troubled youth. I stayed out of the big trouble, but I was always stirring up trouble. And even as an adult, I stirred up some trouble on occasion. So it's not for everybody. But if you're willing to help out, folks like us, folks like Breea, they need help. And you may find that you have a gift for talking to those. And Lisa, you talked about Charles, who I was on the phone with while the interview was going on. He can talk to folks in a way that you and I can't talk to them.
Right.
It's addicts. What I've noticed with treating addicts and whatnot, you cannot BS an addict. They will see right through your junk right away. Or a con. Cons are great at conning people, so they know when they're getting conned.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have folks that have been through that process to be able to make inroads. They just see me as some, guy that's never been in jail, never been addicted, whatever. And that's my lane. I know that. But the folks that get out of addiction or out of incarceration, the best way, I'm a big fan of replacement. And the replacement, whatever they're into, is you replace it with something else that'll give them hope, keep them busy, give them a feeling of accomplishment. As you say, every win matters, all that stuff. But the ones that stay well are the ones that go back and help somebody else,
Right.
because it gives them a sense of, of accomplishment, of I
Purpose.
matter.
That's the purpose.
Purpose, hope, all that stuff. And I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of programs. I've seen a lot of guys go through programs. I've seen several people that I've worked with dead because they know the program. I've had some that say, well, he knew every single program.
Yeah.
But he never would follow the advice. And that's part of the deal. And getting folks to trust you, that you're not in it for different reasons.
Well, I kind of go back to what it was like when we first bought the building for the art center, and people didn't trust us, and they're like, who are you? Like, you don't know what it's like here. You don't even live here. And then we were like, well, we're gonna, because we just bought a house. And the one lady was like, why would you do that?
Yeah, well, it's like the Chamber of Commerce guy when I was complaining about all the permits and red tags and red flags and everything else. I said, you'd have to be stupid as a businessman. You'd have to be stupid to come in one of these neighborhoods and invest. We invest $500,000 in this neighborhood. Yeah. I mean, we've done that. I'm not boasting on it or whatever, but
our picture is next to stupid.
Yeah, I said that to one of the Chamber of Commerce guys. He says, you know what he said? He said, we need more stupid people.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was tongue in cheek, but it really is like, ouch, that hurt a little bit. But
yeah.
You do have to have a passion, just like Bree has a passion about what she's doing, age 25, a doctorate. It's like, I don't know too many people that wake up in the morning and go, gee, I want to be a re-entry person. Yeah, let's go. Off to work we go. Yeah, I know.
But she talked about seeing that movie and how inspiring it was for her. I talk about, before we bought the art center, I read the book Hillbilly Elegy, which is a book about a young man in the hills of Appalachia, which is white poverty, who just dreamed of getting out because he was in such a bad home situation, and ended up getting his law degree and then going back and helping his community after he graduated. I can't remember if it was Yale or Harvard, but it was one of those, and so just being inspired to, like we say on the show, do something.
Yeah. Well, and 1 out of 10 people do not get out of, 1 out of 10 people get out of poverty.
Yeah.
And if you look at, we talk to people about, when they ask us where we live, we say Mars Hill. Some people will say, I used to live there.
Right.
Or I know someone that lives there, or my grandma lives there. But those folks live out in Avon, Plainfield, Greenwood. They don't live here anymore because they want to get out of this.
Yeah.
We're actually the people that rushed back into the fire. We had a nice house there on Speedway, and I get reminded every May how much I miss it. But I think we dearly love it here. We've had some issues here and there with things gone missing, and it's been very interesting.
But we do love it here. Like I sit out on that porch, and in the mornings, it is one of the most quiet places, but it also, like, I feel like we have more birds here than we ever had in Speedway. Like, it just does my heart.
You got to quit feeding them. That's how that works.
I fed them in Speedway too, but we did not have this many. This is like our own little slice of heaven here. So,
well, and I go back to the thing is, some of this stuff is just not for everyone to do. But we all can do a little bit. And, you have programs like Big Brothers, Big Sisters. There's something that people can do. There's just tons of things to do. Like I said, the harvest is plenty and the laborers are few. There's few people that will take time out. I see a lot of folks that are just comfortable in their houses up there, and they just let somebody else take it. Our elected officials are going to take it. I got news for you, folks. The elected officials are not going to take care of it. Yeah. I just came to a meeting with a lot of city officials, a lot of the people that work on homelessness stuff. And it is, I think that one of the things that I realize is if they really want to work on this. They really want to do something, but they can't do something because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do because they don't know what to do. but I think they're finally willing to listen to some of the service providers. And they ask, why didn't all of them come here to this meeting tonight? And I was there speaking on behalf of a couple groups. And it's because they don't trust them. And, the programming, they want to make a law that makes it hard to serve food to people that is being taken the wrong way. And I basically said, why do we need a law? Why can't we just go out and do these things? Why do you need a law? Now, some people say, well, why are you running for office? Well, because my authority is limited as a person. And we've outrun our coverage a couple times here. And I'm really tired of having to listen or trust city officials that just listen to you talk and then don't do anything about it. And then their results are awful. They spend a bunch of money, no results, back to square one. Sick and tired of that rinse and wash and repeat.
Or they don't even listen to you at all, which we have multiple people who represent this neighborhood who will not even come to anything that we host or talk to us about what's going on in our community.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, we've been the art center's 4 years old now. We've lived here 5.
4 years tomorrow.
I know, isn't that? Yeah. Go ahead and tell them how long you lived in the basement here. 5 Christmases, which sounds longer.
Well, it would have been 5 years. This just a few days ago. It would have been 5 years.
5 years, yeah. So, but we've been upstairs, so
since March, so it was 4.5.
And, people say, they ask me, how's Lisa like the house? I said, she loves it, but if you keep your wife in a basement for 4 years, they pretty much love anything. A van down by the river is good, So,
you don't want to say that out loud too many times.
I think it's sort of funny, I guess. You're still here. It's when you're disappeared, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah.
So we don't want that. But so we have more things to do. I keep thinking we're just an art center here in Mars Hill, but we're more than that. I mean, we're doing more than that. And
okay. So I want to interrupt you. So to that point, so when we got our 501c3 and when we opened our bank account, did all the legal stuff to start a nonprofit, the official name of the art center is the Mars Hill Community and Arts Center. And when I was creating our logo, I realized that was like really long. And so
like your stories.
Yeah, I know. So it was really, really long. So, and at the time, we put your pottery studio in there. I was doing my floral design out of there to help support the art center. So we kind of felt like it was more arts than community at the time. But then after the first couple of years, we realized that it really is more a community center than an art center. And so part of our mission was to be able to have a space where people in this community could call their own and have to rent for birthday parties, baby showers, weddings, family reunions. We have a couple of families that actually rent it around the holidays because they've outgrown their homes with all their kids and grandkids. And so they'll bring all of the meal to the art center and host their Thanksgiving or their Christmas meal at the art center. I got a call today from a young lady who wants to have her daughter's 16th birthday party there. And so that's—
let her drive. She'll run into the building.
Yeah, seriously. Well, but so that's really what it's turned into more of over the last couple of years is people using it for things like that. We have an addiction recovery group that meets once a month. We have a Girl Scout troop that meets. We have a Taekwondo group that meets. Those are every week. So we have different organizations that are utilizing the space because they're serving our community and there's not another space for them to use. So I kind of go back to that original legal name of the art center. And it really is the Mars Hill Community and Art Center. And community has kind of taken the front seat to the arts part of it, which I really love. I mean, that's where our mission lies. So.
Yeah. And it just takes a long time for trust because we realized when we came in that there's been people in the past that come in, try to force their ways on people. And, there was a t-shirt, Save My Mars Hill. And, I think that offended both of us. It's like, it doesn't need saving. It doesn't need saved.
No.
So,
Well,
with that,
I want to say this out loud. I am going to say this out loud. So one of the community meetings we went to before we opened, and it was right after we opened, or right after we bought the building, and it was before people really knew us, and they definitely didn't trust us. And someone in that meeting said, "We don't need you to come in here and save us." And at the moment it was said, the person who said it had that t-shirt on that said in letters about this size, save my Mars Hill. And in my mind, I didn't let my voice say it out loud, but in my mind I was like, well, that's not what your t-shirt is preaching, because it says it right there.
Now, it as careful as we were, we still, got some feedback, or we got some.
We got chastised.
Oh,
they tried to run
nice.
us out. They tried to run us out.
Yeah, well, and we showed a lot of mercy, a lot of grace on that, and
Well, so here was my thought on that, because the same person that said that said, what if I don't want to bring my grandkids to your place? What if we don't want to participate? I'm like, fine, don't come.
Don't. But when the other kids come down,
yeah. So if you don't want to, don't
that.
come.
So.
I'm not going to beg you, and I'm not going to force you. But we're here, and we're going to be here. And now we've been here 4 years, and we've served a lot of families, a lot of kids. We have employed quite a few people. I have some young ladies from this neighborhood who are junior high school level, who have come and worked for me and done a phenomenal job. And, so we're serving this community in a lot of different ways. And it's been, besides the fact that it's been rewarding, it's just been doggone fun.
Yeah, we've had some fun. We've had some pretty good little things, and we're going to have a pretty big shindig next year for our 50-year anniversary. So you guys, stay tuned for that, because we're starting to plan it now.
Yep.
So what
I got that confirmed about an hour ago too.
Okay, well, we're not going to tell you what it is, so you have to keep tuning in. So, and then we'll keep following what we're doing with the recovery house and the other different things we have going on. So, Lisa, do you have a guest for next week? You've been really cranking out some really good shows here.
So thank you, Johnny. I don't have one that I can share. I have a couple that are on my radar that I hope I can get produced between now and next week. No pressure, though. So I know
we can always get them on live.
I know, but I know we did a few weeks there where we didn't have any shows at all, and then all of a sudden we've had one every week for the last few weeks.
Now we expect it.
Don't expect it.
Oh, come on.
No, but yeah, I do have some really good possibilities.
Well, I do have the Jack Prade stuff that I can, if I can find it, because my computer sort of crashed. I think I can get it, but it's not readily available.
I would really love to be able to share that, especially because I've shared a picture of the painting that I have in my studio room the last couple of days.
I have to figure it out. I got it on a disc that I have to do some recovery on, and I got to take it over to the Goldsteins and have them try to figure it out on my computer. But that's producer problems that I have there. Yeah. So, but are you ready to land this balloon?
Let's wrap it up.
It up.
Go do something Indy.
Yeah, do something Indy. That's our saying here.
That's what we're all about.
Find the Indy to this one. Oh, there you go. Well, hey, another great show.
Yep.
You have to stay tuned next week to see who Lisa pulls out of her hat.
Yep.
And we'll have fun. So, all right, everybody. Peace out. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.